and welcome to the Sanctuary, a safe space to speak from the heart. I'm your host, Israel, and my guest today is someone I've been dying to talk to, logo designer, baby giant, author of books, James Martin. Thank you so much for coming to the Sanctuary today.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. We've been talking about it for a little while now, but yeah, I'm excited to get down and dirty, as they say. Yeah, we were just talking about how common my name was, which is a good start.
Right. What is the guy? There's a Chris Martin, right? Chris Martin in Coldplay.
Guess what my brother's called? No joke. My brother is called Chris Martin. We couldn't have scripted that. That was fantastic.
Right. Right. So, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna dig in with
Sure.
one of the new, you have this post where you kind of like have a carousel of like, of like, I don't know if I will call it words of wisdom or like advice or whatever.
Mindset, probably, yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. The one is like the day my creative career changed for the better, where you say like success is you define your success. I was like,
yeah. That's it's. I mean, I think that kind of transcends any industry, any human. To be fair, I mean, obviously, I kind of angle it towards creativity and the creative career that I'm in, because that's where I feel comfortable talking, and that's obviously where my family are, my team, and my followers, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I mean, we've all been there. We've all grown up. You know, I think, you know, it was a little bit different now compared to what it was. You know, when I was growing up, there wasn't things like social media. There wasn't. There was social media, but it wasn't really out yet. You know, I was still climbing trees and playing in playgrounds and, you know, playing 1, 2, 3 it in the garden rather than playing computer games or on my phone at the age of like 10 to 16. So, but now, obviously, with the rise in social media, the access to seeing what everybody else is doing all the time, how they're doing it. I mean, there's this, especially in the creative industry, and I'd say probably in many industries, there's this commonality happen where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others and comparing our success to others. And, you know, I mean, I'm not even going to lie. I used to do it. I used to look at people and kind of go, oh, why aren't I there yet? You know, and, you know, especially a bit younger, not as, you know, wise, inverted commas, bunnies, you know, a bit less of a beard. You know, it's kind of, you know, you kind of look up to your peers and the people that you look up to, and you think, oh, you know, look how great they're doing, and why aren't I there doing that good? But, you know, obviously I'm a bit older now, and over the last, you know, it's a while now, yeah, probably 5, 6, 7 years, you know, I kind of realised that, you know, success is mine to, it's a metric that I can only use. You know, my success is compared to my success yesterday or my success the day before, or the tasks I put in front of me. Do I want to be healthy? Do I want to, what to-do list have I got today? You know, and I think what happens is, you know, success for everybody is different. For some people, it's money, fame, influence. For others, it's, you know, for some people, it's literally just waking up in the morning. For some people, it's just, you know, smiling. You know, success is, there's so many different levels of success and so many different ways people perceive success. And I think it's such a dangerous road to go down, is to compare your success to somebody else's success. Because, as I say, we all have a different metric for what we consider success. You know, I'm not a big, you know, I kind of work to live rather than live to work. You know, I work very hard, but, you know, I love having my evenings off. I love having, you know, my mornings off before 8 o'clock in the morning. You know, I've got my weekends to myself. I try not to work at all. And for me, that's success. Success for me isn't going to work on the weekend and busting a gut and getting those extra hours in so I don't have to, you know, I think, that it's all about balance for me. But again, I mean, success is individual, isn't it? So your successes might be different from my point of success, to difference from my mum's, from difference to my brother's, Chris Martin, and different.
Don't do it.
And different from somebody else's. So I think as soon as we kind of learn to center and balance a bit, do. Success becomes, as soon as success becomes tangible, something that you can actually record, metric that you can actually kind of relate to, when I put a list down, did I achieve that list? Success, rather than kind of looking at somebody else and going, I don't know why I don't feel successful, because I just don't feel successful, And when you kind of start to think about it, it becomes very clear that we should only be putting rules on ourselves, and our rules should be our rules rather than somebody else's. Right. But there's all these memes on social media, isn't it? Like, to be successful, you have to work 24/7. I only sleep 2 hours a night, and I think, oh, you freaking idiot, what are you doing? I blooming love my sleep. Again, everybody's different, but I think what's happening is this, like, social media, like the clickbait stuff, it kind of glorifies or makes a hero out of this workaholic, hustler, entrepreneur. And I think you can be all of those things, but have a very balanced life, But I think, it's all for the click, isn't it? All for the like. So that was a very long-winded point about my post yesterday.
No. I'm just gonna jump in, because like there was a, it's like, actually, I'm going to ask the process of creating these things. But before I do, there was the one when you were talking about creating your passion versus like following your passion. Do you remember? Yeah. And like, I'm actually going to read what you said, what you would be if you were following your passion. It's like a dog walking rugby player who tattoos and paints on weekends while drinking cocktails.
It's true. It's another one of those classic questions. I mean, I've read a lot of books about it, and there's a lot of talk already out there before I even approached it. But following your passion is the point. That do we follow our passion, or do we create our passion? Whereas I'm a big believer in, like, I think on the last slide I said, passion is perseverance rewarded. I was, 7 years ago, I'd only done a couple of logos. It was not my passion at all, but I've worked extremely hard at it. It's now my passion, but it's taken a lot of pain, a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of effort, perseverance to get me to a stage where it's turned into my passion. Like you said, like, if I followed my passion all the way growing up, I was a passionate sportsman. I'm passionate about my dog walking, passionate gardener, passionate drinker. All of these things I am. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's another one of those kind of get out kind of clauses. If you do wake up every morning and love what you do, that's great. But I think that is a passion. But that doesn't happen. Like, you don't wake up in the morning and go, right, I'm passionate about this now. Because you might do it for a week and go, I freaking hate it. That happens. That happens so often. You can see it with a lot of people who, what I call magpie. So, what they do is they see something shiny and then they go and chase it, and then they see something else shiny and they go and chase that. They think they're following their passion, but they're probably following trends. And that's why they do it for maybe a year and then go, not for me, I'll do something else. They think it's their passion, but it's not. It's just something that's in fashion. And that's why, I truly believe that passion does come from, like, perseverance rather than we follow it. I think we lead it, personally.
Okay, yeah, no, so let's, Chris Martin's brother.
Well, like James Martin, there's like a famous chef called James Martin. So, I mean, it's...
God!
I'm going to really have to speak to my mother after this, I tell you.
So let's go back a bit, right? Like, did you grow up drawing? And did you, like, go to art school?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've always been creative, I suppose. Well, I wouldn't say I've always been creative, but that's something that I've always leaned towards. I'm not particularly good at, like, maths sciences. I was more on the sporty side and the creative side, because they seem to kind of go hand in hand. So I was a very passionate sportsman, county cricket, county rugby, county other things.
Oh, wow.
I kind of grew up as like quite a good sportsman, captain of most teams. But then at 16 found girls, alcohol, and general, general teenage boy. It was kind of like you either commit or you don't commit, because at 16, it's when you start to go into like the youth and the adult stage where it becomes very serious. And I'd much prefer to go out partying at 16 than kind of continue the sport. So I kind of dropped back out of the sport. And kind of, as I said, I was never the best at art, but I really enjoyed it. It was somewhere where I felt, a room with other people where I felt safe. A lot of my friends back then were kind of more arty and creative, so we all kind of got on that way. So it's kind of something that's always kind of bubbled away at me, and went to basically I had a kind of when I kind of left home at 17, I had a bit of a drug problem, for a couple of years, left home, and then literally woke up one day and, thought, what on earth am I doing with my life? Kind of gone from like captain of sports teams like 2 years ago to like stealing, drugs,
Wow.
And a really bad place. So I like this, the whole kind of saying, like you kind of wake up one day and you see the light, and I don't know what that light was, but for me it was, I need to change. It's not good enough. I want to be more. So, I'm not saying that that's the day I stopped everything. It carried on, but I decided to go back into college, so I did an art foundation, because art was the kind of, what shall I do? I need to do something, art. So art foundation, it's kind of where I felt safest. I was never going to go and do like rocket science or anything like that, or sing, because I would have, Chris Martin.
Stop it!
Sorry. So went did a year's art foundation. Then and basically that's where you kind of do a little bit of everything, a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of sculpture, a little bit of fine art, painting, sketching, all the rest of it. Then after that year, my tutor the tutor teacher said, I think you should take a look at graphic design, because of my style of drawing was always quite neat. It wasn't like, I always wanted to be a fine artist, but I was too controlled. I liked being in the lines and all this kind of stuff and things to be lined up. He said go into graphic design, and from there I did a HND in graphic design, then went to university for a couple of years to do graphic design, or communication design they called it. But I didn't learn a lot there, to be fair. People always talk about education. Should you be educated in design or should you not? I mean, I think there's pros and cons to both. In today's world, you learn so much more on the job and online than you would at university, I personally believe. But university does teach you things like hitting deadlines and working with other people and communicating your ideas with a team. That's all the stuff you get when you're in that kind of place. Then through at uni I thought, I kind of dig in this kind of idea. So, I'm talking early, maybe 17, 18 years ago. It was kind of like, I want to get a job. So got a job in a local agency, making tea, doing, basically doing everything, but doing it all pretty shit, bad web design, bad illustration, basically everything wasn't, I knew it was something I loved doing, but I just wasn't that good. I was kind of given some roles with reference to within a project, but I never got to own a project. But, stayed there for 5 years, got given more and more responsibility, and then started Baby Giant about 11 years. We literally just had our 11-year anniversary, which is my agency, which I started up with my business partner AD. So he does all the web stuff, I do all the creative stuff like branding and identity and all the rest of it. And then randomly, like started up Made by James, which is kind of like my personal brand, and that was never meant to happen. You know, I was just using Instagram, posting pictures of my dog, you know, and of fires and, you know, all that kind of stuff which you think's really arty when you're 5-6 beers down, and then from there just kind of, you know, started to gain traction. I started to share my work and people started to enjoy it, started to follow it, and that's now turned into a community of like close to 200,000 people now, you know, YouTube channel. I've got a book coming out in November. So from 16-year-old, so over 20 years, say, from, you know, a successful sportsman, losing myself for a couple of years, gutter-wise, and then, so it's taken me 20 years to kind of get to this moment where I'm speaking to you about stuff. So what a journey, but it's my journey, and I'm not upset about it. I'm not embarrassed about it. I think owning it, your past can either make you or break you, and I've pushed really hard. You know, I'm never going to forget all the stupid shit that I did, but, you know, I'm going to make sure that I don't do it again. So easy peasy.
Yeah. So James, here's the thing though, like, what would you say, you know, because back then, like, you are the captain of the team as a teenager, you are pretty much at the top, you know, of this guest pyramid that you're working on. You're getting the accolades and the respect of your peers. What would you say, like, sidetracked you from that? Like, did it get boring or what?
Well, as in when I was younger?
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes. I mean, I was, you know, I kind of, you know, when I was 11, I was abused by one of my teachers when I was at school, and I think at 11 I didn't really understand what was going on, and as I started to grow up and understand what was growing up, and obviously, you know, 16-year-old boys aren't nice to anybody. So I started to rebel against, you know, authority, you know, because the person that I trusted let me down in a really big way. You know, I had to go to court to put him into jail and all the rest of it, because he wasn't just me. There was loads of other young kids as well, which he abused. So, I think for me it was probably just growing up and understanding that what I had been through was actually not right. Not, you know, because as a kid, you're kind of like, I mean, I didn't tell anybody until I was about 18 or 19, after, you know, I kind of went through the crazy meltdown, druggy kind of problem. And that's when I started to open up to my brother, Chris, and then my mum and dad. And then, I almost got you then. I was trying to make you laugh, but it didn't happen. Almost. Almost. Oh, I love it. But as I said, it was kind of just going. I think it was. I think from that kind of what I would call a trauma growing up, you know, and holding on to it myself. Yeah. When I was getting to the age of 16, 17, and you know, you start to become a bit more confident, kind of a young man. You know, or you think you're a young man, but you don't really know anything still, do you? But I think that's why I kind of just flipped rebel, because I felt like I could. I felt like maybe I needed to. Maybe I just needed to just not think about it. And obviously, the vice that I chose wasn't a good one. But I think kind of looking back at it, as I say, it's like almost 40 now. I think it was a period in my life that I had to go through to become this person, but that doesn't make it right. But I know now, I believe that it was due to what I'd gone through at my early stages. It kind of came out 5 or 6 years later when I was old enough to compute the seriousness of it, and then I was just thought, fuck, shit, you know, I was going to swear lots then. I just went crazy off the rails, like just rebelled against everybody. Didn't speak to my dad for 2 years, you know. Wow. It was kind of quite a rocky kind of very down time from, as I said, lots of stealing, lots of general misdemeanor rubbish, luckily I never got caught for a lot of it, so otherwise I wouldn't be here talking. My life would be very different. So I'm happy to talk about it now, because I think it's important, because I know other people go through similar stages and think there's no way out, but I think there's always light if you can. Even in the darkest rooms, there is some light if you're looking for it. Sometimes it's difficult, but I think basically that's my life story.
No, James, thanks for sharing that. And you're right. There are people that maybe their life took a different turn, or they had a similar experience, and they don't even they've never even spoken about it or shared it with anyone.
Yeah.
But like hearing someone with you like that have taken this trauma, changed your life around, and built what you've built, it's like, if this person can do it, there is hope for me. So thank you for sharing that, and and also thank you for finding, I guess, the levity through everything, because however you want to look at it is really, really heavy, right? But you find a way to still, be you, this happy, smiling, laughing person. So thank you for that.
No, thank you.
But here's the thing, though. Even when you're going through that, were you doing any art at all? Were you still drawing at all?
Can't remember. I don't remember 2 years, mate. As I said, I was kind of doing bar work. I was doing factory work, and all of that was to kind of fuel my habit. But it was never. I wouldn't say it ever left me, but I definitely stopped practicing. I definitely stopped drawing. I definitely stopped creating art. Definitely stopped talking about it. It was more about drum and bass and staying up for 3 days and then going to work, and it was so I think it was always within me, but it just escaped me. It escaped me for a few years, but I believe without art, I wouldn't be here today. It was something that I grabbed onto. Something that even at that time when I grabbed onto it, I probably didn't think it was going to be a career for me. I think it was probably just me being busy, taking my mind off, being distracted from, going out or doing other stuff. For me, it was initially a distraction, I would say, which turned into, more of a belief in myself that it's something that I could possibly do. I tried teaching, I tried tattoo art, tattoo apprenticeships. There was, kind of loads of different journeys in between that and today. So, but they're always kind of based around, art, art teacher, tattoo apprenticeship. I'm obviously a big lover of tattoos, and it was something, that I was very passionate about. It was just a matter of, I think it was, what it did is it allowed me to start believing in myself and make me believe that I could possibly do anything if I started to put my mind to it, because if I'd gone from that and then I got myself into college and I passed, maybe I could get myself into an HND and pass that, which I did, then university and pass that, then, well, maybe I can go and do this, be a teacher, maybe I can go and do that. And as I said, creativity, life's a bit like this, you kind of pivot, shall I go and try this, shall I go and try that? But so over the last 16 years, it's kind of been all graphic design based. And it's taken a lot of, as I say, hard work, perseverance, but I'm happiest I've ever been.
So I'm going back to this. I'm calling them motivation made by James. That's what I'm calling them now.
Cool, I like that.
So one of this one was this series of basically statements like you'll never make money out of art, you won't get a job covered in tattoos, and you have to wear a suit to a meeting. Hearing all those things, right? like, did any of those things actually motivate you to start Baby Giant?
Um, Being the character I am, I've always wanted to prove people wrong. Ever since, what happened. And I think it's that was the reason I wrote that post is because those have all individually been said to me, but I know they've all individually been said to other people in some form, especially creatives. When I was growing up, art was a hobby. Do you know what I mean? It was something that you do on the weekends with your nan, but get a proper job.
Yeah.
So, and obviously 25, 30 years later, it's a very different world. Creatives are pretty high up on the food chain, when it comes to necessity and need. Everybody needs stuff creating, and obviously marketing, advertising. It's a huge industry. So I suppose the reason. I mean, as I said, like I was told very young, you'd never make any money out of art. Obviously you've got a big love for tattoos. You should never have any tattoos on show. You should always wear suits to meetings. Always be clean shaven. All of these kind of things. And I think it comes from like a generational thing. But times have changed a lot, and I think a lot of people's perceptions of right and wrong have changed, especially when it comes to, I think it's now like, are you good enough? Then it doesn't matter who you are, what you do. Well, not necessarily what you do, but, it's, kind of people's perceptions of what's right and wrong when it comes to work, how you should present yourself have all changed. Yes, you've always got to be polite. Yes, you've always got to, I'm not going to turn up to a meeting with no clothes on, with like a big dick written on the top, or whatever, But I think it's all about people are now believing in, well, if they're happy and they're good at what they do, why should they change? Maybe they're the way they are because they're the way they are. And it's, as I said, it's something that, I think it's something, especially creatives, I think have, and artists, I would say, whatever art that is, music. I'm sure lots of kids growing up singing, playing guitar or piano or whatever, were always told, that's your hobby, go and get a proper job. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same with artists. It is, enjoy it, have fun, but you're going to have to do something real one day, go and be a solicitor or a teacher or a doctor. It was always solicitor, a lawyer or doctor, what is when it was like mid 80s, early 90s. That's what everybody was aspiring to be. That was the top job, being a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. So, but yeah, as I said, like times have changed, people's perceptions of, I think, as I said, it's a generation thing, isn't it? And I think, our generation, and our kids will have a very different upbringing to what is right and what's wrong through what we've all personally experienced. And I think that's what happens is like this kind of general blanket gets chucked over people, and everybody's put under that one umbrella, and everybody under that umbrella is very different. And I think it's embracing those individualities and your own personality is what's going to make you succeed, I think, rather than trying to sheep your way and be like everybody else. And it's a quick fire way to boredom for me personally. And I know it is for you. So, I think it's, I think it's just the power of your own personality needs to be tapped into, because it is the only thing that really makes you truly unique, I think.
No, that is right on the money, man. That is right on point. Because, like, I think when you start living your life for someone else, it becomes like a drag, man. Like, it is not fun. It's not, you're just kind of just, ticking boxes. Yeah, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do this. But there's no drive behind it. It's like you're driving a car and your tank is about to, the tank is almost empty. It's kind of like the same thing but so you get out of getting your HND. What was the process of setting up Baby Giant?
Um, well, I was kind of working at the agency at the time, and the agency I was working at was winding down. They were going to go and do something else, and as I said, I was kind of dabbling tattoo art, teaching, and looking for other jobs within the design industry and going for interviews and not really getting anywhere, which is fine. I'm all right with that. And it was kind of like it's like one of those weird moments. I've always being quite driven, like wanted, from rugby lead to team leader, I've always wanted to lead and lead my own thing. And, it was like one of those weird kind of things, like it's either now or never, I wasn't married, no kids, no commitments. And it was like, I either do this now or I probably never do it, or I don't do it for another 15 years. Because what would have happened is I would have got into another job and stayed there for another 5, 7, 10 years. And then I would have been almost this age, and it kind of would have been like, obviously, like things change, family, marriage, kids, and all the rest of it. Your commitments change and all the rest of it. So, I mean, the Baby Giant was kind of like, it was like a off the cuff thing where it was like, I just chatted with my mate and we were like, should we try and start something together? And it was that, and what we kind of said to ourselves, look, we'll give it a couple of years. We're not going to get anywhere within a year, and we're probably not going to get anywhere within 2 years, but we can't just give it 3 months and then give up. We've got to try and put some time in and see if we can get something happening. And he was the same as me. He was like, yeah, I think it's a kind of a now or never. We either do it now or we don't do it. So we both jumped in, as I said, like kind of got one client, then got 2, and I said, then got 5, then got 10, then got 40, 100, 200, but again, that's like, That is a level. That's a decade of a journey. That is.
You're right.
We didn't make. We made some money, but not really. We weren't that comfortable after 2 or 3 years. But it was moving. We were working from like rooms in our house. There weren't that many overheads, so it was kind of like we can keep going as long as we're making money and making stuff. It will happen. And then after about year 4, it just started to. I think we just landed a really good project. Was consistent monthly money coming in, as well as like new projects dripping in, and it was kind of like, okay, this is kind of starting to happen, and now it's turning away work, which I thought would never happen. It's kind of like, as I said, the dream of like being self-sufficient is kind of now in like full fruition for us, and it's very exciting, and it's allowing me to invest more time in like my personal brand, the Made by James brand, like writing the book and creating some logo courses and doing all this cool stuff that I've had bubbling away in my mind, but I knew it wasn't the time to do it. I was building the agency, but the agency is in a lovely little place now. It's making good money every year, growing every single year, and luckily even through COVID, God bless, it's grown this year, which is a miracle, but fantastic. I feel very blessed, but I think it's kind of like all that hard work and pain and perseverance kind of just paying us back a little bit. So it was kind of, as I say, it was just kind of like a random, like, we either do it now or we don't do it. And I'm glad we did. But if you told me that a decade ago, I would have gone, sod this, mate, I'm off.
Yeah, 3 things stood out for me. When you guys started, you were like, we're going to do it for 2-3 years, right? It wasn't like, well, just do it for 6 months, see. And that's something I find that most people, when they want to start something, they don't plan that far ahead.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that stood out for me. The other thing that stood out for me is something that led me to one of the motivations made by James, and is the one of FOSY, fear of saying yes, especially when you want to say no, because you
Yeah.
mentioned like turning down jobs. And then the third thing that also came up for me is like, and this is something I find most creatives, whatever they do, struggle with pricing what they do, right? Because especially when you're starting out. So I'm compressing all three into one. And
I'll work with you, man. You compress it, and I'll put it back out there.
Okay, so basically, what kind of experiences, or what was the reasons between you guys saying, well, do it kind of long haul rather than starting for 6 months, whatever? How did you come up with that idea, one? And then two, like, how do you kind of know when to say no? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, actually, shit, I'm not going to do that. Fuck it. I'm just going to stay home with my family. And then the third one is like, when it comes to pricing, what is your approach to it?
Yeah. Okay. I'll try and remember the first one. So I mean, with anything, nothing happens overnight, and unless you're extremely lucky, or you win the lottery, or something miraculous happens, nothing happens overnight. And I truly believe that 90% of the people on the planet realize that. And I think, we knew that, it's going to take us 6 months to even figure out who we are, let alone who our clients are. So I think it just came down to planning, so who do we want to be? What kind of work do we want to do? What kind of work are we doing? What's our mission? And all these things take, a website, building a website, getting our branding done. All this takes 3 months to kind of get ready. And then you've got, as I said, like, you kind of, where are we going to market? What are we going to do? So that takes you to 6 months. So before we've even blinked, 6 months are gone. So anybody that thinks that, I'm a big believer in giving things the time that they deserve. If you really, truly, truly, truly want to do something, and I always kind of bring it back to a career. A career is generally, let's say, 40 years long. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you want a career in something, why would you give up after 6 months? This is something that I always struggle with young designers who I speak to, and young creatives. They're like, oh, I'm not getting any work, I want to give up, and I'm not happy. And I'm like, so how long have you been doing it for? 4 months. And I'm like, fucking hell, dude, come on. And that's nothing, that's not being mean to them. That's just me. This idea of, get rich quick, oh, it's not working, do something else. All the people that they look up to within the industry, they've been in the industry for almost 20 years, some 25, 30, 40, do you know what I mean? And, even like the best designers, actors, musicians on the planet, they haven't been doing it for 6 months, and if they haven't made it, they're off. They've been like busting their ass, working their socks off to kind of get to where they are, and that doesn't happen overnight. It also takes a lot of no's. You get told no a lot, or no, that doesn't fit within our budget, or no, you're not good enough, or no this or no that. And I think you just got to get through all of those. So that's the answer to number one. Number two, what was number two? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Number two was, one of the motivation made by James, which is one of your fears is the fear of saying yes, especially when to say no. Yeah, exactly.
When to say no. Right, I've clocked. I'm on it again. I've absorbed it, and I'm going to go again. So, when to say no. I mean, in the beginning of Baby Giant, I said yes to everything. We needed the work. It was like, can you do web design? Yes. Can you do branding? Yes. Can you do packaging? Yes. Can you do a mural? Yes. Can you do this? Yes. Can you do... And basically, it was just yes. Because I knew that if or we couldn't personally do it together, I knew I'd be able to find somebody that could. Do you know what I mean? So basically, if I can do it, or my business partner AD can do it, we acted as the middleman. So somebody would come to us, can you do this? a 150-page brochure in 2 weeks' time. If we are really busy, I would just say yes, get somebody in, get them to do that job. They would charge me, let's say, 1,000. I would charge the client 2,000. I'm getting paid £1,000 for project managing. So that actually really started to kind of really create this fantastic thing for us by accident. Like, we became the go-to people for people to call. Do you know what I mean? Even if we couldn't do it, we would figure out a way to do it. So that was the early years of Baby Giant. And that was purely out of necessity. That was purely to get your name out there, get work. Even if it was work we didn't want to do, we would still do it because we had bills to pay. We had things to do. We had stuff to invest in. So that was the early days of Baby Giant. So nowadays it's very different. And the reason I think it's very different is because we know our worth now, So when I say, so there's two reasons to say no to a project for me. There's two reasons why I say no to a project. A, I can't fit it in my schedule. B, the budget's not right. So I've got a very strict process. I'm still cranking out like 80 to 100 logos a year, and that is like max capacity to me, because I've also running a personal brand. I'm also writing books, running an agency, doing this, doing that. So all the logos get done through Baby Giant anyway, but there's also the day-to-day runnings of an agency. There's the emailing, there's the admin, there's the finance, you name it, it doesn't stop. So I know that that's my kind of limit where I feel happy, where I can kind of complete everything I need to complete. So the reason I will say no is if I give somebody a price and they say, I can't work to your budget, and that's most of the time, unless it's for a charity or I get like a really, really, really good gut feeling about something, I will never drop my prices because I know the work that I create is going to create them lots of money, and really help them to create money. So it's not like me just drawing a picture, putting on your wall. What I'm creating you is going to make you money forever. So my prices are my prices, and there's no wiggle room in that. For example, if somebody comes to me and goes, so for example, my time, if it's done on my schedule, it's done at my prices. For example, if somebody comes to me and goes, James, I know it's tight, but we need it for 2 weeks. We need it in 2 weeks' time. I've got a full deck of work. That's when it starts to get interesting because it's now on their time, so it's double price. So, for example, if they need it as quickly as they need, I double my prices. And for double my price, I will happily work a few more extra hours on the weekend, a few extra hours in the evening because it's worth my while. But that happens very rarely because people don't like my prices doubled. They don't like my prices doubled. But I think it kind of is what it is. And I think that's what it is, kind of knowing your worth and knowing your clientele and knowing who you're marketing to. So my logo prices aren't £20,000, but they're also not $20. Do you know what I mean? So, it's very important to kind of stick to your guns, understand your process, know how long stuff takes you. This is kind of taking us, I suppose, into number 3, like how to price. So, for me, it's like your price is always dictated by your process. As I said, I've been kind of, obviously originally it starts out like, what am I happy to make per hour? How long does that job take me? So that's how much I should charge for that. But that only covers my time. So then there should be, I want to make some profit on my project. So it always kind of like as kind of like a general rule, it kind of goes from, hourly rate. That's an hourly rate that you're happy to work for the amount of time it's going to take. And then that creates a number, and then I times that by 20%, and the 20% is my profit, which goes straight in the bank. That profit just goes straight in the bank because I'm also getting covered for my time. So,
Right.
so that's kind of like a very simple method for anybody, young creative, who's trying to work and trying to make money and also trying to make a profit. Because you got to remember, like, computers, electricity, blah blah, all these things cost money. So you've got to have all your time covered, and you obviously your bits and pieces covered. I'm probably more on what you would call like a value based pricing at the moment. I know the value I can bring. And I know the value my work will create for that person. It's still kind of generally done on hourly rate, but my hourly rate goes up every month, but the amount of time it takes me to do it stays the same. Do you know what I mean? So the value gets added on to my hourly rate. Sometimes a project might take me 1 hour. Sometimes an idea will just come straight into your head and you'll go, crikey, do a few sketches, you think, crikey, that's going to work, blah, 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 lock it up, bing, bang, bosh, done. That happens. Sometimes it takes, sometimes it takes a bit longer. Sometimes there's a few revisions. I allow for generally 4 revisions and all the rest of it. But, I think it's just one of those things that once you've got your process down, you know how long stuff takes. And as you kind of grow into the industry and understand your space in the industry and understand what the work you're doing can do for that person, it starts to be taken out of like what you would call an hourly rate scenario and becomes a more value-based proposition. Because, I can create a logo for somebody and tomorrow it'd be in front of, across all platforms, like 2 million eyes, do you know what I mean, on like a reach thing per month. So that adds value to them, and how much, where's it going to be used? How is it going to increase their time? I mean, all of these things can start to play a role, but I think it's also really important to not overcomplicate pricing, because what happens is delusions of grandeur happen. Like you've got some young kids charging 40k for a logo and they've only been designing for like a year, because they've read something online or watched a tutorial or read it in a book. I think it's important to be patient with pricing. My theory is if you're busy, your prices are about right, possibly too cheap. If you've got absolutely sod all work in, your prices are too high, and that's a really simple gauge for me. I would prefer to be busy all year than stressing about getting my next project at triple my prices. I've always wanted to be accessible. I've always wanted to be working, because the other advantage of doing work is that you've got more work out in the world, more eyes seeing it. The amount of people who goes, I saw this there, you did this for my friend. I haven't pitched for work, I haven't advertised for work. Obviously I post on social media, but I haven't paid for any advertising or marketing for about, 7-8 years now. And the work finds me, through effort, perseverance, and sharing it on free platforms like Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and all the rest of it. So, I think money is, it comes back to where we started, success. What is success for me? My success for me is being busy, earning enough money, and having enough time to myself and my family and my friends, and walking my dog in the morning and singing Coldplay with my brother, on the weekend. I had to get one last one in.
Oh my God, James! Oh man, you set me up!
I was reeling you in like a fishy there. But I said, happiness and success for me is, working hard during the week, 8 till 6, Monday to Friday, but weekends are mine. I don't want to be 50, 60 thinking, oh, crikey, I've got way more money in the bank, but I've not travelled. I haven't met new people. I haven't spent time with the people I love. For me, you only get one life, well, as we know it, we don't know what goes on afterwards, but, why not find a balance where, you know, you don't need to earn millions and millions and millions of pounds. If you want to do that, go and do it. You know, that's not a problem. But, you know, you can have a very happy life living off, you know, I know some extremely happy people who don't earn lots of money, but they're the happiest people on the planet because their balance and their life and their mindset is, you know, they're happy living in the woods, in a cabin, you know, living off the land, you know, and, you know, I think, as I said, this is what happens when the success metric gets kind of all clouded, you know, figure out who you are, figure out what you want from life, and then work towards that, and then you will be successful, you know, in your own eyes, because that's the only thing that matters.
Right. I love it. Let's jump into the book. And you know it's coming out in November, but if you pre-order it, you're gonna get a video made by you, which I'm gonna pre-order my own for sure. But like, let's talk about the book. What was the idea behind it? You know, and then the title, Made by James: The Honest Guide to Creativity and Logo Design. When did the idea come up, and like, how is it making this book?
Well, it wasn't an
It's
idea.
hardcover too. I like that.
I mean, it wasn't even an idea at the beginning of last year. I never wanted to write a book. I did want to write a book, but I never wanted to write a book yet. But some publishers reached out to me literally as COVID hit, you know, and I thought it was like a big joke. And they reached out to me and said, "We've been following you for a while. You know, would you like to write a book?" And I was like, this seems all a bit fishy to me. What's going on? You know, because, you know, that stuff doesn't happen. You know, it's kind of like, here's this great opportunity. You know, I say I'm so used to having to work my butt off for stuff. You know, when something like kind of lands like that, you kind of I always doubt it. I always think it's not real until I start doing some research. Started looking up the company, looked up the email addresses, make sure it wasn't kind of some sort of crackpot joke that was going on. You know, everybody's laughing at me, going, "Oh, James is falling for it." But you know, luckily enough, it wasn't. You know, so they reached out to me and said, "What kind of book do you want to write? We want to retain your voice. We think you've got the right personality, and we think you've got some really cool stuff to say, and we think people need to hear it." So I kind of told them the kind of book I wanted to write, and kind of went through the process of like interviews. You go through like 5 or 6 interviews, like editors, publishers, owners, all the rest of it. And then got, you know, about 8 weeks after the first call or first email, they were like, "James, we want you to write a book. We're in." And like, we obviously signed contracts and all the rest of it. But the book for me, you know, the book for me isn't about like blowing my own trumpet, telling you how awesome I am and how amazing my work is throughout the whole book. Maybe there was 1 page on that, but you know, it's very small. But you know, so basically what it is, I kind of wanted to make it, you know, I'm all about building stories and journeys. So it kind of goes from like all the way. So the book contains, basically it's the book I never had growing up as a creative. That's the way I've kind of fashioned it. Yes. So it's everything. So basically it starts off where I started, my childhood, my education, everything we've chatted about here, you know, being very open and honest about what I've been through, you know, my past, my successes, my failures. And then it kind of goes into like the process of becoming a designer, the process of creating logo designs, you know, when it comes to, the process of dealing with clients, the process of how to price, the process of remaining positive, the process of dealing with negative clients, the process of, so basically everything I have experienced as a designer and a logo designer, a business owner, I've put into this book, you know, and added loads of little tips. So, because I know all the stuff that I've gone through, there's thousands of people, if not tens of thousands of young creatives, old creatives, going through the same thing, but there isn't as yet, you know, a book that they can, basically I want it to be like their best friend in the good times and the bad. You know, if they're having a good time and they want to come up with some cool ideas, there's loads of ways to create ideas, loads of logo ideas, fun illustrations, breakdowns, and all the rest of it, all my work. But, you know, if they're having struggles, if they're struggling with creative block, if they're struggling with imposter syndrome, if they've got a bad client, or they're just feeling a bit down about where they are and where they need to be, you know, this book's also got something for them, you know. So it's, you know, whatever they're feeling, I want it to kind of be like a book that they can go, oh, pick it up, you know, James is here, do you know what I mean? He can help me, you know, he can help me with this issue with a client. You know, he can help me deal with this, you know, or he can help me come up with this cool idea by doing a few techniques that he uses. And yeah, for me, it's just about kind of, you know, I've always been a big believer in like knowledge, you know, it can only be called knowledge if you share it. Do you know what I mean? So there's no point in it just staying in here. And like, you know, already, you know, I kind of share my heart and soul on social media, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and I think maybe the kind of industry is seeking a more honest voice. I mean, there are some fantastic honest voices within the community, don't get me wrong, but there are also a lot of people who only show you how awesome they are, only show you how much money they make, only show you how great their work is. They don't show you all the failed stuff. They only show you the stuff that they win with, you know, which creates this kind of, you know, false dichotomy of like, oh my God, he's always amazing. He's never bad. I mean, why am I failing? Why am I failing when he's always good? So that's why I always try and keep it pretty real, you know, share failed ideas, share failed processes. And I get to the final idea, you know, share struggling to have kids with my wife, you know, through IVS, share the abuse that I suffered when I was an 11-year-old boy, you know. I think opening up about, you know, all this stuff is probably maybe slightly more relatable, and people realise that there's an actual human behind the work. It's not just this kind of pristine portfolio of freaking bullshit, you know, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. It does my head in, some of it. You know, I would just, you know, but I know it's also not, you know, I'm not saying that everybody needs to go out onto social media and tell all their deepest, darkest secrets and then run away, you know, or, you know, because it's tough to share stuff. But, you know, there are some people in influence online who I would just wish were a little bit more honest with their audiences, because it does create, you know, it does make people feel bad when they're telling people how awesome they are, how much money they make, and how easy it is to be an entrepreneur, how easy it is to kind of, you know, I make, you know, 10 figures a year, you know, and you think, well, what did you make 10 years ago? You know, you're not telling us what you did 10 years ago when you might have been making nothing. You know, it's all about, you know, the now. And I think, you know, sometimes it's important to stay in the now, I suppose. But, you know, yeah, for me, it's just about sharing. Sharing's caring. There you go.
And you know what? I want to say, James, thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge and all these experiences. So I also need to, you know, be respectful of your time because you have this pocket. So I'm gonna let you go with this one though. One of the things that you know, you on the page, where there's a page on your website made by james.co where you can go order the book, you know, and I'm there. I did my pre-order, you know, and then you can put in there, get a free video with your order number. It's all set. Yeah. But one of the things that stood out for me is, like, you know, you gave some things I can read from, you know, some of the topics that are covered in the book.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let you go with this one though. It's actually the last one too. Surrounding yourself with the right people. How do you choose the right people? How do you define the right people? And how do you, I guess, make the environment conducive enough for them to want to be around you?
A lot of trial and error. No, I think over time, as you grow up, I mean, you'll know it is just like me. You kind of, you know, when you grow up, you kind of, I mean, peer pressure is a big thing. You get into a group of friends, and they might not necessarily be the right people for you. And I think as you grow up, you start to, you know, I mean, I'm a big believer in hanging around with driven, positive, happy people, because if I spend more time with happy, driven, positive people, they're going to make me happy, positive, and driven. If I spend time with negative, miserable, lazy people, that's going to rub off on me too. So I'm very careful about the people I spend time with, and who I spend most of my time with. You know, I was always taught, you know, you should always surround yourself with these three people: somebody you can learn from, somebody that you can teach, and somebody that's on your level, because you'll always be learning that way. So somebody that you can learn from, somebody that you can teach, and somebody that's on your level, because you know you'll always be growing that way. And that's always a great way, you know. So I'm always looking for like mentors, you know, especially with like online. You always like, you know, you can absorb people's energy by just following them on Instagram or reading their books. You know, obviously there's people I teach, so I'm trying to teach people through YouTube and all the rest of it. So I've got that covered, and I've got a lot of friends who are at the same stage of business and all the rest of it. And then, so are you still there?
I'm right here.
Yeah, you've gone. It says you've been disabled due to internet quality issues.
Yeah, no, he does that sometimes. I'm right.
Oh, that's right. No worries. So yeah, those are the three people. And then basically, so when it comes to like friends and stuff, as I said, like I surrounded myself in a very bad. I don't think individually when I was younger that it was we were a bad group of people. But when we were together, individually we weren't bad people, but when we got together, we spurred each other on to be massive twats. Do you know what I mean? And massive idiots. So so that probably wasn't a good thing. So, I mean, choosing the right people. I mean, I just, you know, if you look forward to seeing these people, if you miss them or you miss their energy, then they're definitely the people that you need to be spending more time with. You know, COVID's obviously been a massive knobhead to us all, so we can't go and see all of our loved ones, friends as much as we used to, and I'm definitely feeling that, you know, but I try and keep on. We have video calls and all the rest of it, but you know, I know that once lockdown is gone, I know where I'm going to go. Do you know what I mean? And I also know where I'm not going to go. I think it's just, I mean, it's not about being nasty or cutting people out, but it's the amount of time you should spend with these people. Because I know that we've all got some friends that we've had forever, and they might not be the nicest person. They might be nice to you, but they might not be nice to other people. They might not, you know, follow your ideas and your thoughts, and you know, they might not be as driven as you, but they've been in your life so long that, you know, you can't. It's like an old dog that you can't really put them down. You got to kind of stay with them, you know, because you know they're family, you know. But what I would do is, you know, you can just choose to spend slightly less time with them and more time with people that you do, you know. I mean, we've all been there. We'll go out with a certain group of people and we're like, God, I cannot wait till we do that again. The energy was awesome. But there'll also be people where you kind of go, do you know what? I could give that another couple of months until I see them. It was fun, but you know, I'm kind of happy. I'm happy being home, kind of thing.
Right.
So I think as soon as I mean, your gut will tell you what's right and what's wrong, and you just got to follow it, you know. And as I said, like, try and surround yourself with the people that you feel are most like you. I say, if you are sporty, you know, and driven and generally happy, try and surround yourself with sporty, happy people. Because it all comes down to what you do. You know, we kind of absorb to our tribe. You know, I'm not going to suddenly go and hang out with a load of lawyers or doctors, because we would have fuck all to say. Do you know what I mean? But I know a lot of nice lawyers and doctors, but I wouldn't spend all my time with them. You know, I spend my time with driven, happy, positive. But I mean, that's the most special thing for me is the positivity. You know, is something that I seek out in people. You know, always looking at the brighter side, always happy, always smiling, you know, because that energy is, it's powerful, very powerful.
Right. Right, and the energy you brought to the show today has been so powerful. Starting with your brother, but I gotta read.
I'll get him to sing for you, mate.
But one of the motivational posts you have on your Instagram is, I mean, I love a lot of them. I keep bringing them up, but the one I'm going to let you go on is this one. You have to, it's like a cross. On one side is don't be the reason, and then the other one is be the reason. So don't be the reason someone does not share the work. Be the reason someone is empowered to share their ideas. Don't be the reason someone feels they're not good enough, and then be the reason someone feels good about themselves. Don't be the reason someone gives up their creative passion. Be the reason someone strives to be all they can be. If you're not brave enough to share your own work, you have no right to leave negative comments on the work of others. Show up or shut up. Yeah. I love that. And Made by James is everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, your website is .co. Thank you so much for coming to the sanctuary and for sharing all this knowledge. And tell your brother that, he featured on the episode today for sure.
You should do one with him. It'd be hilarious.
I wouldn't be able to.
Mate, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. I can't wait for the book. November can't come early enough because I put my order in. And people watching or listening, you can put your order in. You're going to get a video. And another thing I forgot to say is to subscribe to your newsletter. And it's not just for people that design or create. It's like people that want to learn, people that want to grow. And your newsletter is dope.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it usually drops every Monday. I had this Monday off because it was Easter holidays here, but I'll be back on it every Monday. And I'm always trying to drop something in this brain that just comes out as it comes out. So it's always fun.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is. Thanks so much, James.
Thanks, buddy.